All right, guys, got some big breaking news here for you from the Washington Post. Israel and Hamas have now reached a tentative U.S. brokered deal to pause fighting for 5 days and free dozens of hostages. So it's not 100% set in stone yet that this is going to happen, but it's at the point where it's being reported, and apparently we're on the brink of it. I wouldn't write home about it just yet. I'd want it to be like 100% in action before we really celebrate. And even then, is this really something to celebrate? If when I give you the specifics, you'll know that perhaps it's being oversold a little bit, at least by the headline in the Washington Post. So the idea is Hamas will free women and children in exchange for a 5-day pause and increased humanitarian aid. It was negotiated by the U.S., Israel, and Qatar, who was mediating for Hamas. And there are a bunch of parts of this that were interesting to me. So they said, like, they're going to release them in batches over the course of 5 days. But listen to this part of the article. Quote, concerned about the captives, two of whom Israel said were found dead, along with the rising number of Palestinian civilian casualties, have steadily increased pressure on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government. Now, the reason why that sort of drove me crazy is that Israel's concerned that two of the hostages were found dead, and it's like, well, yeah, you guys probably killed them with your bombing. This is something that we learned like a week or two into the conflict. There had already been reports of at least 20 hostages that had been killed in the bombing. So they were alive, and then they weren't because Israel was indiscriminately bombing. We also have here, listen to this, quote, the decision to accept the deal is difficult for Israel, said one person familiar with the situation, who, like others, spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive negotiations. While there is strong domestic pressure on Netanyahu to bring the hostages home, there are also loud voices in Israel demanding that the government not barter for their release. So, in other words, the hostages' families are like, for the love of God, save, my friend, my family member, my mom, my dad, my sister, my kid. But you have the far-right insane lunatics who are like, no, the primary goal is to just completely and utterly wipe out Hamas and keep that front and center. They also say here, in public remarks, Israel has remained unyielding while acknowledging the pressure it is under. On Friday, Israeli National Security Council head Zachi Hanegbi told reporters that the war cabinet had unanimously agreed that a limited ceasefire could occur only after, quote, a massive release of our hostages, and it will be limited and short because after that we will continue to work towards achieving our war goals, namely eradicating Hamas, which, as we've discussed, is not really a thing that's doable. They probably tripled the number of Hamas members within the course of this bombing campaign, because how many people did you kill that you now radicalized other family members of theirs? This reminds me of like the war on terror. The U.S. was never going to defeat terror. It's impossible to defeat terror. It's also impossible to defeat Palestinian hardliners who want to get revenge, and you're making more of them by the minute. So that's why I say this is like, it's good news, but it's also bittersweet. It's not all that great, because what they're saying is, like, even if you release the hostages, we're going to go right back to doing the same shit that we're doing right now, which to me, I mean, they really give away the game, right? Because sometimes when they talk to the U.S. audience and to Western audiences, they try to pretend like, they're being measured and they're being specific in what they're doing. But internally, the things they're saying to each other, it's really given up the game here, that the ultimate goal is basically collective punishment of all Palestinians in Gaza. And they've basically already decided we're going to ethnically cleanse, at the very least, northern Gaza. They've already done that, but probably they'd want to include South Gaza as well. That's why they're trying to make the deal with Egypt to basically expel all Gazans into the Sinai Desert and in a tent city. So it's like their real goal here is ethnic cleansing of Gaza. And it looks like even if we have a deal that goes through where the hostages are released, Israel's like, we're going to go right back to ethnic cleansing you anyway. Which to me, look, that's why part of me is like, I don't even know if this is really going to go through. Or if it is, I don't know if the terms are really going to be upheld. For the simple reason that if you're Hamas, I don't know why you do it. right? If they're telling you, yeah, we'll give you 5 days and then we're going to go right back to murdering all of you and doing ethnic cleansing, from their perspective, they're probably thinking, I need better terms than this, right? Like, more security guarantees, more humanitarian aid. We're not even talking about the anywhere between 9,000 and 12,000 Palestinian political prisoners that are in Israel right now with no due process whatsoever. That's not even part of the deal. So I don't know. It could be, maybe they'll agree simply based on the fact that they're desperate, right? Or it'll be like a good PR win for them to release the women and the children. Like, there are reasons why maybe they would do it. But also there's many reasons why perhaps they wouldn't do it. But, you know, that line about how Israel's going to go right back to doing what they were doing anyway, that's dark, man. Especially now that we know you got over 13,000 innocent civilian deaths, over 6,000 dead children. I mean, just announcing to the world we're going to keep doing rampant, brazen war crimes, it's astonishing. So, I mean, I guess better than if nothing happened. At least they're having talks. At least they're having conversations. At least they're trying to work out some terms. But we'll see where it goes from here.